Okay, there is renewed interest on a 14-year-old case in Buffalo, New York, and it involves a former police officer who says she was fired in 2008 for stopping a white police officer's chokehold on a black suspect who was handcuffed. CBS News correspondent Jericka Duncan spoke with Cariol Horne about the case that ended her career.
Looking at the video, it was very upsetting, and I felt that if one of those officers had stepped in, that he would be alive today.
Cariol Horne, a nearly 20-year veteran of the Buffalo Police Department, says the image of George Floyd dying at the hands of police is triggering. In 2006, then Officer Horne made headlines after intervening when she says fellow officer Greg Kwiatkowski was choking a black suspect, Neil Mack.
I couldn't breathe.
What was it that day that made you jump in?
Neil Mack looked like he was about to die. So had I not stepped in, he possibly could have. He was handcuffed and being choked.
The Buffalo Police Department brought disciplinary charges against Horne and fired her in 2008, a few months before she was eligible to receive a full pension. Greg Kwiatkowski sued Horne and her lawyer for defamation. In 2011, a judge found that 8 statements Horne's lawyer made were defamatory and false, including the claim that Horne saved the life of a suspect who was already in handcuffs and was being choked out by Officer Greg Kwiatkowski. Neil Mack, the suspect at the center of the nearly 14-year-old case, maintains to this day that Cariol Horne saved his life.
He was choking me. I was handcuffed. Cariol Horne said, "You killing him, Greg," and she reached over and tried to grab his hand around my neck.
In 2012, in a lawsuit brought by Mack, a jury found no wrongdoing by the Buffalo police officers involved in his arrest. As for Greg Kwiatkowski, he was sentenced to 4 months in federal prison in 2018 for using unlawful and unreasonable force against 4 black teenagers.
Unlawful, unnecessary force, the same thing that I said he did.
Horne says she's turned her pain into activism. When she saw the recent video of Buffalo police pushing a 75-year-old protester to the ground, she says it was yet another trigger.
So now if they can push the 75-year-old white man when it's still daylight out, just think of what they do to our young black kids at nighttime.
Horne says these days she's at peace because she stands by what she did. Still, she broke down when I asked her how this has impacted her children.
It's important for me to be truthful because this has been a lot of years. So when you talk about where did the raw emotion come from, it's because I have fought all of these years and tried to keep it together for my children.
And Jericka Duncan is joining us now to talk about her reporting. Jericka, such a powerful report. Let me first ask you, how is the Buffalo Police Department responding to calls for a new investigation?
Well, of course, we reached out to them for this story, and they basically said, listen, Cariol Horne asked for an independent arbitrator to take a look at this. The arbitrator did that. They made recommendations, and the police commissioner at the time said that he would follow the recommendations of the arbitrator, and the recommendations were for her to be terminated. So the police department is sort of just stating the facts of what they did, what happened. We have not heard any real effort to change that decision or to give Cariol Horne the back pay that she lost as a result of not reaching what they say is that 20-year mark, which would have made her eligible for full pension benefits.
Yeah, you know what I keep thinking about, Jericka, with this case is, you know, how we've been talking recently about these gypsy officers who lose their jobs because of their violent behavior and then just sort of float around to other police departments and get rehired. And here you have a woman doing the right thing and finds her career, you know, lost and stopped. We know that the Buffalo City Council is actually asking the New York State Attorney General to investigate, pulling it out of Buffalo and beyond. What's the likelihood of that happening? How does it look?
So they did this a few years ago and nothing happened. So the hope is that with all of the attention that we're seeing now with the George Floyd death and the fact that you have officers literally standing around as Derek Chauvin's knee is on George Floyd's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds with no one intervening. Cariol Horne has been pushing Cariol's law, and that would essentially make it illegal for police officers to not intervene. And she also wants to stop any type of retaliation against officers who intervene, because one of the things that she told me is that, you know, culturally, especially even in 2006 when this happened, you don't go against that blue wall, as they say. You don't go against your fellow officers. So what she did at that time, again, she stands by it. An arbitrator found differently. But we do know that that officer, Greg Kwiatkowski, did go on to serve federal prison time. So this is definitely a story for me that I remember thinking back to it because I worked in Buffalo and I covered some of those hearings back in 2007 and 2008. So for this to sort of come up again, it really has renewed the call. Even the Buffalo News, which is the big paper there, wrote an op-ed in defense of Cariol Horne, asking that she receive all of her benefits, her full benefits. So we'll see what happens with this story, but very interesting when you look at what happened to her then and what we're talking about now.
In fact, in that op-ed that you referenced, Jericka, in the Buffalo News, they wrote this, quote, "Even more today than in 2006, the evidence suggests that Horne honored herself, her family, and her uniform, and that the police department and the city of Buffalo have dishonored her performance of duty." She's fighting for her full pension and to pass that law, Cariol's law. How would this legislation help protect officers who find themselves in a similar situation?
So she breaks it down into 6 sections, and it's on a website that she has, cariolslaw.com. The 6 sections, the first one, duty to intervene when officers pose imminent threat to citizens, accountability for officers neglecting to intervene, protection for officers who intervene, restorative justice for retaliation of whistleblowers. So all things that she says she experienced, and she wants it to be changed, but obviously it's been 14 years since this incident happened in 2006. So she feels like this is the time. I know you guys were talking earlier about things being different and people just sort of using that term a lot. It feels different this time. I think she's hoping that this time is different for her.
Yeah, that it's not just a feeling, that it's actually is something different. Hey, Jericka Duncan, I'm so glad that you did this story. Thank you so much.
Thank you.